I keep thinking about this situation between Rick and Sonny, and honestly, it does not feel like a simple revenge story to me. It feels uglier than that, more personal, almost petty at the beginning. And that is exactly why it becomes dangerous later. Because sometimes the biggest wars inside families start from something so small that outsiders would laugh at it. A relationship problem, a misunderstanding, a moment where someone expected loyalty and did not receive it. Rick thought things were finally different between him and Sonny. That matters. For years they were enemies. Not just rivals, but the kind of enemies who look at each other and remember every insult and every betrayal that ever happened. Brothers by blood, but strangers in spirit. Rick always lived in Sonny's shadow. That part of the story cannot be ignored. Sonny built an empire. People feared him, respected him, depended on him. Rick, on the other hand, had intelligence and ambition, but he was always treated like the unstable brother, the one who could snap, the one who could never truly be trusted. Then slowly, almost strangely, they began to rebuild something. Not perfect, not warm exactly, but functional. Rick worked as a lawyer and started helping Sonny with legal problems. And Sonny accepted it. That alone was shocking to many people around them, because Sonny usually keeps family and business separate, unless it is Michael or Dante. Letting Rick close to the business was a risk, yet Sonny allowed it. Maybe because he wanted to believe that blood meant something after all these years. Rick took that seriously, maybe too seriously, and when he promised loyalty, he actually meant it. People underestimate how much that promise mattered to him. Rick is not a saint, but he is also not someone who gives loyalty easily. Once he does, he expects something back. Not obedience, not praise, just respect. Basic respect. And for a while, it looked like the respect existed. Rick handled complicated legal problems for Sonny. He protected the Corinthos organization in ways nobody else could. Contracts were cleaner. Investigations disappeared faster. Certain business arrangements suddenly looked legitimate on paper. The kind of work that only a very sharp lawyer could pull off. Sonny benefited from that a lot. Then Liz entered the picture again in Rick's life. And that relationship changed something inside him. Rick has always been complicated when it comes to love. Obsessive sometimes, protective to an unhealthy degree maybe. But with Liz, there was something different happening. Calmer maybe. A sense that he was trying to build something normal for once. Liz seemed willing to try. Their relationship was not perfect, but it was growing. Slowly. Awkwardly. Two people with too much history trying to pretend the past was manageable. And then Dante started noticing Liz. At first, Rick did not worry. Dante is Sonny's son, but he is also a police officer. Someone who supposedly understands boundaries and respect. Rick assumed Dante would step back once he realized Liz and Rick were serious. That assumption turned out to be completely wrong. Dante did not step back. He leaned forward instead. More conversations with Liz. Longer looks. Small moments that Rick began noticing one by one. Nothing dramatic. No obvious betrayal. Just enough tension that a man who cares about his relationship would start feeling uncomfortable. Rick confronted Dante privately, not aggressively at first. More like a warning wrapped in politeness. He told Dante clearly that Liz was important to him and that this situation needed to stop before it turned into something ugly. Dante did not agree. That is where the real fracture begins. Dante has always believed he sees people clearly, maybe too clearly. He looks at Rick and sees manipulation, ambition, history filled with questionable choices. Dante thinks Liz deserves better. He genuinely believes that. Maybe he even thinks he is protecting her. But intentions do not matter much when you are stepping into another man's relationship. Rick tried again. Another conversation. This one less polite, more honest. He told Dante to back off. Simple request. Direct request. Family request. Dante ignored it. Now here is where Sonny becomes crucial to the story. Rick eventually tells Sonny what is happening. Not dramatically, not screaming, just explaining the situation and expecting Sonny to act like a father who understands limits. Rick believes Sonny will tell Dante to stop. Instead, Sonny shrugs it off. That moment changes everything. Maybe Sonny did not realize how serious Rick was. Maybe he thought it was just jealousy. Maybe he simply believed that love cannot be controlled and Dante should follow his feelings. But to Rick, it sounded like betrayal because Sonny was not neutral. Sonny was choosing Dante, even if he did not say it directly. Rick walks away from that conversation feeling something old and bitter returning. That familiar feeling that no matter what he does, Sonny will always protect his own children first and treat Rick like the expendable brother. And honestly, Rick is not entirely wrong about that. The shift inside Rick happens quietly after that. No explosion. No dramatic threats. Just a slow, cold calculation forming in the background of his mind. Because Rick knows something nobody else really understands. He knows Sonny's secrets. Working as Sonny's lawyer gave Rick access to everything. Financial records that never see daylight. Shell companies that hide money flows. Agreements with people who would never want their names connected to Corinthos operations. Some of those documents are legal gray areas. Others are clearly illegal. Rick has been protecting those secrets for months. The difference now is that he starts copying them. At first, maybe he tells himself it is just insurance. Something smart lawyers do when working with dangerous clients. But that explanation does not stay convincing for long. Deep down, Rick knows he is preparing something bigger. A case. A real case that could bring Sonny down. He continues working for Sonny normally. Meetings. Phone calls. Paperwork. The loyal brother role remains intact on the surface. Sonny even thanks him a few times for solving complicated legal problems. Rick listens, nods, smiles slightly. Then later at night, he scans another file, builds another folder. The evidence grows piece by piece. The terrifying thing about Rick's revenge is that it is patient, is not emotional. He is not storming into Sonny's office with accusations. He is constructing a legal trap, slowly and carefully. Almost beautifully if someone appreciates strategic thinking. And Dante becomes part of that plan too, because Rick begins wondering about something interesting. Dante is a police officer, a respected one, maybe even a future police commissioner, yet his father runs one of the largest criminal organizations in the city. How does Dante balance that? Maybe the answer is simple. Maybe Dante simply avoids certain investigations. Maybe he trusts other officers to handle them. Or maybe there are small moments where Dante looks the other way. Rick starts looking for those moments. Phone records, case reports, internal police documents that a clever lawyer can sometimes obtain. Rick is searching for any indication that Dante protected Sonny or interfered with investigations. Even a small hint could be devastating. If the public ever believes that Dante covered up crimes for his father, the consequences would be enormous. Suspension at minimum. Possibly criminal charges. Rick does not even need to prove everything perfectly. Suspicion alone could destroy Dante's career. That realization excites Rick in a dark way. Because suddenly the revenge becomes symmetrical. Sonny loses his empire. Dante loses his badge. 2 victories. 1 carefully planned war. There is another complication though. Molly. Rick's daughter has always believed her father was trying to become better. She knows his past, but she also believes people can change. Molly sees the effort Rick made over the past months to rebuild family relationships. So when she accidentally discovers pieces of his plan, the shock hits her hard. A folder left open on a laptop, a list of financial transactions connected to Corinthos businesses, notes written by Rick outlining potential federal charges. Molly confronts him immediately. She does not yell at first. She just asks questions. Quiet questions that reveal she already understands more than Rick expected. Rick tries to minimize it. Claims he is just protecting himself legally. Standard precautions. Molly does not believe that. She pushes harder. Asks if he is planning to turn Sonny in. Asks if Dante is part of the target too. Rick eventually stops pretending. He admits that Sonny betrayed him first, that loyalty was meaningless if Sonny refused to defend him even in a small personal matter. Molly argues that destroying an entire family over a relationship conflict is insane. Rick answers that it is not about Liz anymore, and that answer scares Molly the most, because it means the revenge has grown beyond the original reason. Eventually, Rick contacts federal investigators, not openly, cautiously, anonymous communication at first, hints about financial crimes connected to Sonny Corinthos. The FBI becomes interested quickly. Sonny has always been difficult to prosecute because witnesses disappear and evidence vanishes. A credible insider source changes everything. Rick provides limited documents, enough to prove he is not bluffing, but not enough to reveal his identity yet. The investigation begins quietly. Sonny notices changes in the atmosphere before he knows the cause. Business associates become nervous. Certain shipments are delayed. Rumors circulate about federal attention returning to Corinthos operations. Jason might suspect something, Carly too, but the idea that Rick could be responsible feels almost impossible at first. Until Sonny starts reviewing who had access to the specific documents mentioned in a leaked warrant request. The list is short. Rick's name appears near the top. When Sonny finally realizes the truth, it hits him like a physical blow. Not just anger, but something heavier. Disappointment maybe. Because part of Sonny believed Rick had finally chosen family. Now the war between them returns. But this time, the battlefield is different. Courtrooms instead of warehouses. Legal briefs instead of guns. And honestly, I think that makes the story far more interesting. Rick fighting Sonny with the law is almost poetic. Sonny built power through intimidation and loyalty networks. Rick built power through intelligence and legal strategy. Two brothers using completely different weapons. The tragedy is that Liz never intended to cause any of this. She becomes the emotional mirror showing how far Rick has gone. When she learns the truth, she cannot ignore the damage being done. Liz confronts Rick and asks the question nobody else asked directly. Did you ever truly forgive Sonny? Or were you just waiting for a reason to destroy him? Rick does not answer immediately. And maybe that silence reveals more than any confession could. Because revenge has a strange way of exposing the parts of us we thought were buried. Rick might believe he is justified. Maybe part of him is right. Sonny did dismiss his feelings. Dante did cross boundaries. But the scale of Rick's response, that is where things become unsettling. A relationship conflict turned into a federal case. Family disagreement turned into the potential collapse of an entire criminal empire. When I think about this storyline, the thing that fascinates me most is not the crime element. It is the psychology. Rick convincing himself that justice and revenge are the same thing. Sonny realizing that trusting Rick again might have been the worst mistake he ever made. And somewhere in the middle, Molly trying desperately to stop a disaster that may already be unstoppable.